Athlete's Testimony. I'm your host, Traycee Lynn. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have a special guest with me today, Miss Summer Simone. Some of you in Philly may already know her as Summer Jordan, but we are really excited to have her here today. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you, and I love you already. On this show, we're not perfect, but we love Jesus, and that's what everybody here has in common. We'll talk to you today. We're going to talk with Summer Simone, who is a modern day Renaissance woman. We're going to talk to her about some of her projects, music, and then we're going to put her in a hot seat with some speed fellowship questions. And then at the end, we're going to just close out giving you some general updates on where you can find out more information about Lyrical Cafe. So, you ready, Simone?
Yes.
Let's get into it. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I remember you came to Lyrical Cafe when we first started. I remember you. I've known you. I see you as this multi-talented, amazing, unique artist. You play the violin.
Yes.
You sing. You write songs. And you rap.
Yes.
Did I leave anything out?
It's a lot, but
Yeah.
we'll cover that later.
Yes. And so modern day Renaissance woman, that kind of gets to that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. And so you have a single out called Psalms 23.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So Psalms 23 is my single with Nathaniel Cota III. He's actually an apostle out in Yaden. And we have a joint single. We actually found out that we went to the same high school, Kappa High School, which is for creatives in the city. And it's just prophetic worship music. I think it's about 11 minutes long, and it's just violin and keys, and it's really peaceful. And so far, we've traveled to places like Grenada, Mississippi. The music has reached an international audience, and because of his influence and his platform. So I was just honored to be a part of that project.
Oh, that's exciting. Wow. So violin and keys, and his name is Nathaniel Cota III.
Yes.
Where can people find it?
You can find it on any music streaming medium, and it's on YouTube. So
I'm going to have to check for that. Yeah, so you have this amazing story about the violin that you have, because if you've ever seen, those of you out there listening, if you've ever seen Summer perform, I just thought it was so amazing to see somebody mix hip-hop and violin and singing and songwriting. It's just so impressive. Tell us about this violin. How long did you have it? How long did it take to learn it?
So I've had the violin that I have now for about 7 years. I got it in 2012. At the time when I was, by the end of my junior year at Kappa, I was homeless. So that opened up opportunities for me to be able to street perform for resources and for financial security. So when I was street performing one day with a friend, this woman came up to me named Adrienne Red, and she said, I have this violin that's been sitting on the shelf for 100 years. Which one of you wants it? And I said, to give it to me. Like, me and my friend both wanted it, but I was like, give it to me. And the lady ended up giving it to me. And I think maybe 2 years later, when I was in college by this time, her son asked her, like, Mom, why did you give it to that girl instead of her friend? And she says, because I saw your light. So for somebody who doesn't even ascribe to be a Christian, for God to open their eyes, to let them see, because when people say they see the light, the Bible says that I am the way, the truth, and the light. No man comes to me except he come to the Father. So nobody comes to the Father except he come through me. So I mean, for her to see that, I know it was God.
Right.
So that's what blew my mind. So I was like, well, God, you are with me even in my situation.
Yes.
And it's like every time I play this instrument, it's 200 years old. So every time I play this instrument, I named it after the former owner.
Okay.
It used to belong to her late grandmother, Hazel Red. And I believe maybe around the 1800s, she had gotten married. And her husband was like, you can't really focus on music. You got to take care of your wifely duties.
Oh, wow.
And so she put her instrument down, did what because that's the old way. So, makes sense. And she did what she had to do, but this violin was just shelved and had so much like beauty. It's the first instrument that ever made me cry when I played it. And like, I'm a G, so I was like, I'm not going to cry in front of her. So when she walked away, I boohooed a little bit, and then she brought it back. She had to get it like fixed up and stuff. So we met at Suburban Station. So that's like a forever trademark in my heart for me and her. And this instrument like, I don't know, every time I play, it's like I win something. Like, that's actually how I ended up becoming Miss Black America. It's how I opened up for Sheila E. Usually whenever I perform somewhere, somebody just blesses me with something. Wow. And I remember I was at In the Light Ministries, and somebody said, you know, that's God's way of kissing you. And I was like, okay. Yes. Like, that's nice. But yeah, it's just favor and, you know, just a blessing to be able to have that ability. It is a love-hate relationship, but ultimately I come back to it. So.
Yeah. Why do you say love-hate?
It's a love-hate relationship because a lot of times when you're a violinist or you just have something that people associate you to, I don't want that to become my identity. I don't want to be just known as the violinist because I do so much. Right. Like, it wasn't until I just started branding myself that people found that I could sing, that I could write, that I could rap, I could do so many other things. And it's like, I love my violin, but I don't want that to become who people know me as. Okay. So yeah, I think that's just where that comes from. And then recently, there's just been a lot of things that I've been exposed to about people in the industry that's kind of turned me off to just the whole thing. But ultimately, you know, if God wants you to follow a path, he's not going to let it like just up and, you know, disappear. That desire is going to still be there burning, and you'll find yourself in situations where that stuff will resurface. And yeah, it's pretty awesome, but it's a struggle.
Yeah, the industry can be interesting, and it can be interesting because I can definitely share some stories myself. But you know, he gives you that gift for a reason. Right. You know, those gifts. And I heard somebody say, the gifts that God gives you, they're not yours, and we're not going to have a need for them after this. So we're supposed to use them. This industry,
but they can be used for yourself, though. That's the one thing I want people to know. Like, don't overexhaust yourself trying to serve so many other people that you forget yourself. Because a lot of times, music is what saved me. Music is what kept me when I was going through, like, especially being homeless and coming from abuse and just different things of that nature. Like, music really kept my mind. God really used that to keep me, even in my younger age, before I was even in my full knowledge of who God was. It still ministered to me, and I didn't realize that that's what it was doing. I struggled a lot with behavioral problems because I was diagnosed with ADHD at 2. And so, you know, with different Devereaux counselors that would come to the school and just with different instances that would happen in school, I eventually had a teacher who looked out for me, as well as a music teacher. And I actually ended up living with her my 9th grade year of high school when my mom had gotten sick again. And, you know, whenever I would get in trouble in school, ironically, she was my teacher and the school disciplinarian. So it's funny how God works it out. But they would just say, you know, Summer, I know you're having a day. Just go downstairs and play for a little bit and then come back and join the class when you're done. And I would play and I'll be fine for the rest of the day. Wow. So, I mean, even early on before, like I said, before I even was in acknowledgement of the ability that God had given me, it ministered to me first. Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do hear that. You hear, I remember Lauryn Hill saying that it was therapeutic. Like, music is therapeutic.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I would love for my next degree to be in. I have a degree in business. I have a diploma in music, but I have a degree in business. And I would love to go back to school for music therapy. I actually just auditioned for Berkeley. And they really liked me, but I'm struggling because they don't have my program in a master's like I want. They have it in a 5-year bachelor's program. So I'm really fighting with that, but we'll see where God leads me in the next couple of years.
Yeah, you're doing some exciting things. So it's like you are somebody that we keep our eyes on because God keeps moving you. I know you recently did some performances in AC. Yes. Can you tell us about that? How was that? Yes. Was that your first time?
No. So basically, me being in Atlantic City comes through the sponsorship for the pageant. Platinum Productions, they are affiliated with the Dell Music Center and WDAS Radio. They actually have me come out and do different shows or different appearances for them. And for me, it's kind of a thank you because they invested in me early on to even do the pageant when I didn't even want to be a pageant figure. It was an option to be in the pageant as a performer or as a contestant. Me struggling with self-esteem issues and stuff.
Now, let me pause you for our listeners that don't know the pageant. You're talking about the Miss Black America Pennsylvania pageant?
Yes, it's a national Miss Black America pageant, but I got the state title just for competing. But I placed top 3. I got second runner-up. Miss Positivity, which my pageant sisters voted me as, and I got talent. I was also the only violinist there as well. So
that violin.
It just opens doors. It just opens doors. So I'm just like, okay, God, like, so because I struggled in a lot of the categories. Like I said, I didn't have any experience. Like I struggled on interview questions. I struggled. It was just so bad. Like my stage fright is so bad. And people are like, you've been performing for years. Why are you still nervous? And I'm like, I'm still nervous because I'm nervous. Because it's still people.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that just, it came about through that. And this past Mother's Day, I opened up for the Whispers. I was supposed to open for Drew Hill, but something happened with the communication. I ended up opening for the Whispers, which was still an amazing show. Yeah. And I didn't realize that they were so lit. Like I love when like you get around OGs in the industry and they're still killing it.
Right.
Like they're still killing it, and I'm just like,
okay,
can I have a portion of that
yes.
though?
Yes.
So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's cool. All right, so having multiple talents, do you have like a favorite one? Is there one that's closest to you? If you had to rank them in order, like this is my favorite, going.
I think they just serve different purposes for different stages of my life, like or different moods that I'm in. Like I'm one of those people that like dress according to how I feel. Like the music I listen to is based off of my emotions at the moment. So a lot of times you'll notice like if I'm having a bad day based off of the songs I choose to listen to, and usually different personas or different gifts come to the forefront when I'm in a different mood. So like a lot of times rapping came about when I was angry or when I was going through a lot of like internal stuff with people or like just like failed relationships that like rubbed me the wrong way. That's what the rapper came out.
Okay.
And then that was really weird. And then like I have the grandma's thing, which is my friends call me a granny because I crochet everywhere. So I crochet. That is just like something to pass time.
Okay.
And recently when I went to AC as well, I had to go twice that weekend. I ironically, one of the designers never showed up, so I got a chance to show these bathing suit tops that I make in the fashion show. I was just putting them on the models to have taken a picture backstage, and they were like, you can walk. And I was like, you just told me I couldn't walk. But they were like, yeah, one of the designers didn't show up, just go out. And I was like, what? So it was like a big deal to like, yeah. Because sometimes, I'm a little bit stubborn when it comes to... just solely being a violinist. And I want to shed light on so many other things, but sometimes the violinist is what's going to lead other people to even be, an acknowledgement of who you are as a person. Yeah. And I don't like that, but at the same time, it is beneficial. So yeah, and I think like for me, I also give advice for different entrepreneurs because that's what my degree is in. And one thing I always say is like, don't be stubborn because that may be the reason you're not making money. And going to different, entrepreneurial mentors, they will always tell me, even though you have all these different abilities and you want multiple streams of income, there's always going to be one or two leading streams that open up doors for the other ones to come under. Right. So you have to go with the one that makes the most money the quickest, and then you allow the other things to be, other streams when it's time. Right. So, I mean, that's frustrating, but like I said, like that stubbornness is letting that go and just allowing your gift to do what it's meant to do for you so they can get to the people it's supposed to reach. So you can get the funding and the backing and all of that. So okay.
So each gift is inspired a different way. You don't really have like a favorite. They just serve their purposes. Yeah. That's interesting because when I rap too, it's kind of like it's my way of like punching and fighting. That's how. That's how. Yeah. So okay. So I remember when I first saw you at Lyrical Cafe when we were in our Germantown location. You had inspired a few people that were there. One person, her name is Camilla. Hi, Camilla, if you're listening. Hi. She was inspired by your story about youth homelessness, and she had connected with that. And then you wrote some material about that. What are some takeaways that you had from that time in your life? How do you think it has shaped your walk as a believer?
It put me in a really funky spot actually, and not in a good way because like I said, I was homeless at 17, and it was for a short period of time, but like there's things that have happened because a lot of what homelessness does, it affects you mentally. So a lot of people who experience adult homelessness or youth homelessness go through mentally and emotionally. It's not necessarily like people think it's, homelessness is associated with drugs and alcohol, but that's just a coping mechanism for the mental warfare you go through. And so it just put me in a really weird space, but it also gave me a chance to see things. I'm one of those people that like see things that everybody else doesn't really pay attention to, which is really weird. But I was able to see a niche which is an entrepreneurial word to just mean I saw an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to do a shelter in a different way.
Okay.
Because a lot of my residents, a lot of my roommates and housemates that were there,
Mm-hmm.
they had gifts and abilities and talents.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
like some could cook, some could do hair. One girl loved writing anime novels. I
Mm-hmm.
love her, like still keep in contact with some of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why isn't anybody pushing that? Like they always make them go to a 9 to 5. Like that's corny. Who wants to do like, so it's, I heard somebody say, fund your vision until your vision funds you. But
Yes.
it's like we get stuck in the, oh, you can't survive as an artist, and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I was beat down so many times by even family for wanting to pursue music, because for the longest time they knew I wanted to be a veterinarian. I love animals. I actually have a 4th Instagram page for animals.
Oh wow. Okay.
So like that's the fun thing about me. But yeah, so I was like, well, nobody's cultivating this side of them. And I actually had a social worker who was like, Summer, how serious are you about music? And I said, I'm pretty serious about it. She was like, well, how far do you want to go with it? And I was like, all the way. And so she was like, well, I have an opportunity for you. I ended up auditioning for Charlie Mack's Party for Peace that year. And I got in, but they didn't have a prize for my category. So I ended up getting a specialty position as the opener of the show, because they liked me, but they just didn't have any financial anything for me. So because I was the only instrumentalist, they let me open for Little Mama. Who was there, or Lil Mama, who was there, and I got to have lunch with all the celebrity lineups that was there. So that was like my first like really taste of what could be, with music, and it came while I was in a group, so it's just crazy to think like God had to get me in those situations so that he could reveal to me, because he had to protect me from some things that, was going on in my household. Right. So, and yeah, so I just began to think, and I was like, hey, well, what can I do with my business degree? Because that's a major God chose. I did not choose entrepreneurial studies. I was like, I'm gonna go into management so that way I can, not be taken advantage of in the industry. I'm good. I don't gotta, do music when I go to college. I'm good. Still played. Like I just every time I try to get away from it, it just like keeps,
it's like it's attached to you.
Yeah,
right?
it's like you just can't leave it alone. And so yeah, that's basically what happened. I was like, well, I want to show them like you can make money using your gifts. You can, do this. And like a lot of them, like you can be a multi-millionaire sitting on a corner, but because nobody's helping you cultivate that idea, you're trapped. And that's what I wanted to do. And it's a lot of
them that are like that.
And I know that because I used to go through bouts of feeling, discouraged and like unappreciated, because, when you're a caring person, and just when you're an artist or creative in general, you're very sensitive, you're very empathetic to others. That's how you create. You're supposed to connect with other people. So, it's a gift and a curse. But when I would go through bouts of like feeling, dealing with depression and different things like that, I would literally walk downtown, because I went to school down there, so I knew it. So I would go and I would sit with some of the homeless people, and I would just testify. Wow. And I would just sit with them, take a moment, tell them my story. And I made friends with one particular named Sarn. And he told me he also was a musician, and he was adopted by a white family out in the Poconos. But he fell on the hard times because of his drug use and stuff like that. And I just remember I just like buy him like insomnia cookies. His favorite kind was like peanut butter. We would just sit and like bust it up. And one thing that was interesting to me about him is, and I want to say this because a lot of people have misconceptions about homeless people. Everybody's not buying drugs with the money you give them. I followed this man. He asked me to come to the bank with him. The money he made from busking or from, just begging, he put in account.
Oh my goodness.
He now has a place where he can stay for as long as he wants.
Oh wow.
So just to show people the different dynamics of the people that we pass by on a regular basis, you really can't judge a book by its cover. So it just made me so much more compassionate to people, and made me so much more appreciative of people who appreciate me and my time. So, that's something that really helped me. So that's just one example of that. But yeah. And
you have such a beautiful heart. I'm like, as you're talking, I'm feeling like you remind me of the scriptures where God talks about he looks at the heart, so when I'm hearing that you took the time to sit with the homeless person, his name was Sarn, and just really see him, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. And I feel like God is really going to use that. That's where he can use, and he's going to move that internationally.
Yeah.
I see that for you.
And thank you. That's why it just really crushed me when, you know, and sometimes I know for me, I can get anxious at times when I have an idea. That's the problem with visionaries. We're very like our timeline. Yeah. So like when my shelter fell through, my case ended up getting thrown out. But I still mentor. One of my mentees is actually here. She's in the waiting area. Oh. And I had a few of them. I had like maybe she's not in a bad situation, you know, but I had some girls who were like, I had maybe 7 foster girls that I would mentor, and I would just use my house as like a safe space. We would have like, we would have like movie night. We would have karaoke just to keep them from like getting into trouble, you know. Yes. And it just was their house. And essentially my shelter was going to be named after my late mom, Joy House Academy. And I said Joy House Academy because I wanted to show them how to make sustainable wages using their art through faith, art, and entrepreneurship. Those are my 3 things. So because faith is a key point, those are literally the 3 pillars in my life that allowed me to be where I am now. And that's where I want to stay, and that's where I want to bring other people to who are just like me. Yes. So
that's beautiful, Summer. So what's on the horizon for you? We hear the Joy, say it again.
Joy House Academy.
Joy House Academy. We know you have some projects coming out. We have the Psalms 23. What can we expect from you coming up in Philadelphia and beyond?
As of now, because I didn't expect to be here this long, my goal was to start my shelter, pass it down to my team,
be here
in Philadelphia as the headquarters. In Germantown, actually, I live very close to here, and it was gonna be here as the headquarters. And my goal was to move to London, start one there, and then long term create an exchange program between the shelters so the kids can travel.
Oh, wow.
And I actually have a friend in Camden who started a traveling nonprofit for homeless people. So we were going to team up. So, you know, it's just things that were lined up. But, you know, sometimes we think a not right now is a no. Right. And we had to reevaluate. It was a blow when it didn't work out the first time. But, you know, ultimately, the people who we're trying to be heroes to, we have to remember God has them in his hand. You know, the song we have, he's got the whole world in his hands. Yeah. Like, he literally does.
He has them too.
He has them too. So it's like, you know, he can use you, but he doesn't need you to accomplish what he wants to do, you know, so just be patient, you know, and, you know, God kept me until my help came, until he sent the people in my life that I needed at the moment, and even now. So it's like, what makes you think he's not going to keep them too? Right. So it's just like letting go of some of that control and really trusting God, not just for yourself, but for others too. So.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. For people that want to stay in touch with you and like to hear your music, stay in touch with you on social media, can you drop your social media handles? So I have about 3. Okay. If you want to follow me for music, that is SJ_sounds, SOUNDS. If you want to follow me for Miss Black America, that is ENTR_SJ. And if you want to follow me for crochet, that is Couture Crochet 94. All right. So thank you for that. Now we're getting into our speed fellowship. It's a little game, kind of fun that we want to have with you. A way to get people to connect with you and get to know more about you. So we're having you in a hot seat and just random questions. Where are you from? I'm from Philadelphia. I was actually born in Chestnut Hill, raised mostly in historic Germantown. Okay. All right. If you could meet any person in the Bible and ask them a few questions, who would it be and what would you ask? I got top 3. I thought about this question. I really like Paul, King Nebuchadnezzar, and I believe it's Gideon. Is that the one that God told to test the men at the water? Yep. Yeah. So he had Gideon. To fight with 300 people. Yeah. So those 3 are like my top, but I guess Gideon is the most recent one. Why? And what would you ask? Like, what's interesting to them? I don't even know what I would ask. I just think I would just like watch. I feel like just watching is sometimes better than asking questions, because I learned a lot from watching, just literally just being around people and just like picking, you know, catching on to things. So, yeah. Okay. All right. 3 words or maybe images that describe what your walk with God has been like in 2019. Definitely violin by default, because it's just always been there. My cat, which is very ironic. I've always had animals. Okay. And yeah, they're very therapeutic for me. So
just that I feel like God uses animals. People overlook them so much. But,
Yeah.
So the cat, the violin, and my journal. I write a lot.
Okay.
And that's actually going to be a book. I'm a pending author, so I have a book coming.
Do you have a favorite online pastor on YouTube, and who is it?
So I don't know if you guys follow me already. You already know I'm a huge fan of Apostle Matthew Stevenson III.
Okay.
From All Nations Worship Assembly. His headquarters is in Chicago. I love his ministry. Him and his wife also minister in London because I'm an Anglophile. So
okay.
Yeah, that's just like a big deal. But they own most of their, like, they own all the church buildings, but the buildings that they own, they bought them outright with cash, so they have no debt.
Oh, wow.
So I'm all into that, and God has me already on that path. I don't have a mortgage for my house.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, I'm all for, no debt and serving God and holistic healing, not just preaching the word, making sure the whole person is dealt with.
And I do have a question for you. I want to ask it now before I forget. For people that want to support you and things that you do, but I'll get to that at the end. Okay, so let's see. Last question, how do you bounce back from any setbacks? What is your method?
Allow yourself to go through it. A lot of times we try and not to feel things like, oh, I'm a Christian, so I'm supposed to uphold this persona, or I'm supposed to uphold this thing. But a lot of the saints went through. And I think just allowing yourself to go through that in a healthy way. I always say, I wasn't able to grieve in peace. That's my biggest thing. I let me go through, but let me go through in a safe space. And not just physical space, but mental space, my friend circle, making sure you do seek professional help if you need to speak to a counselor. I have a grief counselor who's a reverend, and I found her through a website called Therapy for Black Girls. So, that's also a safe space in itself. So just making sure you have that environment and that time to basically feel what you need to feel, because there's nothing more authentic and there's nothing more triumphant or overcoming about someone who loves God and serves God, but they're honest about what they're going through. And I don't mean like put on a show for people and like make them feel sorry for you and like have a pity party, but be honest, because that you never know who you're ministering to. Like I always believe in Uber ministry, especially. I love witnessing and finding like different ways to talk and get things out of people, because it's a short ride. You'll probably never see them again.
Exactly.
It's an easy way to minister. And I think so many people focus, and I saw one of the questions was about church. One of the things that used to bother me is I feel like we focus too much on inviting people to church as opposed to the kingdom of God. And when you focus more on numbers versus that relationship, you miss out. And then you're frustrated because your numbers aren't filled. Or your quota isn't met. So, but if you focus on God's business, He'll take care of it.
Amen.
So.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. If people want to sow into your work, into your ministry, do you have a Cash App or a GoFundMe set up or anything like that?
No, I mean, if you want to be a blessing, I do have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. But I mean, I'm not really asking for money as much as I'm asking just for prayer and just that God would just like just give me clarity about what to do first. A lot of time I struggle because He gives me so much. He downloads so many things, and it's good to have things as opposed to not having anything and not knowing what to do, but I have too much, and I'm like, well, what do I focus on first? What do I do first? What's the order of this? You say you want me to go back to school, you want me to write this book, you want me to come out with this EP, what's the order of this? So I mean, if you want to fund that, the money from Psalms 23, I get paid monthly, so if you want to support me, you can definitely download that single. I have a project called Blossom, and one of my singles on there is Jehovah Shalom, and that's the first song I did, like a Christian rap. So it's about my testimony, and if you want to be a blessing to support that project, literally just support my music, and all the money goes, I tithe off of all the money that comes in from that. Wow, so I do tithe and offering off of all the money that comes in, and use the rest to help me save up for studio time. So if you want to donate studio time, if you want to buy the single, either one helps.
That's great. Do you have any words or scriptures or any lyrics or anything that you want to leave us with?
I mean, I guess since I was just talking about Jehovah Shalom, I can sing a little bit.
Yeah,
of it.
I love that. Okay.
Should I do the rap? You want to rap or
Either or,
sing?
whatever's on your heart.
I can rap because I can't think of the key it's in.
Okay.
All right, here's the rap to Jehovah Shalom. God, you found me just in time. It was a 911. I was a mess, and now I'm blessed to say I rock with your son. You kept my mind and gave me grace. You wiped the tears from my face. I'm still a work in progress, but you never turned me away. Only away from my sins, and I'm grateful for that. You took my place on the cross. You took my stripes on your back, and you said yes to the pain so I could plow through mine. It wasn't easy, but now I finally made up my mind. You rocked my world and blew my mind. You touched my heart and my soul. Now I can love all your people instead of being so cold. I'm still amazed by all the ways you made time at the time, because I've been homeless and abused, recently losing my mom, and now Miss Black America, been on NBC 10, and I never would have made it if it wasn't for him.
Amen. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Summer Simone. Summer Simone. Find her on Instagram at SJ_sounds. We'll also put all of her information in this podcast. You've been listening to Lyrical Cafe, the show where art meets testimony. Check us out on all your major podcast platforms. And thank you so much for tuning in.